Hello boys and girls, welcome to my channel, I'm ForClassic and welcome to BenchART. So for today what I do have needed is Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1+2, which is a remake of the first two titles that looks a lot like a remaster. It was developed by Binox, which is a well-known developer team inside the Activision, and Vicarious Visions, which recently they kind of created the remake of the Crash Bandicoot 1, 2 and 3, which we did test on the channel before at the time. So as you can see, we will be playing the game at 720p with 75% of resolution scaling. There is an FPS cap option in here, but there is no option for 30 frames per second. I will apply a little bit of sharpening using FidelityFX Sharpening, which has pretty much no impact in performance in doing so, and there is much more visual clarity. And I will be using the minimum settings, but I decided to raise TAA because when you do reduce the resolution scaling, alright, you want to use TAA and a sharpening tool like FidelityFX. So, but before showing you the results with the settings that I did try out, let's check the minimum requirements. So the minimum requirements asks for an i3, 8 gigs of RAM, and a GTX 660 or an AMD Radeon HD 7950. So this looks like the typical requirements that all the Unreal Engine 4 games bring. So yeah, this doesn't really explain too well what you really need, because all the Unreal Engine games mostly have these requirements, these minimum ones. Alright, so let's jump to the results. So at 720p using the minimum settings, I got an average of 39 frames per second, but there were moments where the game did drop below 30 frames per second. While using what I have done in here, which is applying 75% of resolution scaling, using TAA and using FidelityFX Sharpening to 30%, I got an average of 47 frames per second with a 1% low of 33. So it is just an improvement of 8 frames per second on average and pretty much 6 frames per second on minimum, but brings way more consistency than playing just with the minimum settings and having a bunch of aliasing going on. So does it run okay? Alright, so this game, to run okay, it would really need to be played at 60 frames per second. This is where I do feel that the game runs very smooth, because it depends what you are looking for. So at the moment on this warehouse, you might be looking to a part of the map where the game just performs at 50 frames per second, while you might be looking at other parts where you are getting low 40s or high 30s. So you can notice those inconsistencies on the frame rate, and that might be a little bit distracting for you, but it all depends. For me, it is absolutely playable, just like all the games that run in between 30 to 60 frames per second. But what happens really is that this game, it is more faster, because you need to make a combination of tricks, and sometimes that is that split second before you reach the floor where you need to do the last trick or just do the last optimization to your trick. And if the frame rate fails a little bit to you or changes, well, you might fail that trick. But, you know, it is still very playable nonetheless. I'm pretty sure you guys will be very happy with the performance that you're getting into the game. Of course, it is not 60 frames per second or anything like it, but still, it is playable. And the minimum settings, as you see in here, it looks awesome. I really wasn't really expecting this game to look so good at minimum settings, and this applies to other maps, which I will show to you a little bit more forward into the game. But yeah, let's talk now a little bit about the game. So what does this game brings new to the table? This game has been really well received on Metacritic, so the score, it is 88 from 0 to 100. I think it is insane, but it really shows us that this game, it is very, very well done. The user score, it is even better with 9.3 of score. So I really, really enjoyed it. When I started to play Tony Hawk's Pro Skater, I started with the third installment, so I never played the first two titles, but I knew that the first two titles had a limitation of time on the maps, and this is the same way that it works. So when you start this level, for example the warehouse, which I'm actually playing in here, the warehouse have a lot of objectives which you need to do, and you have 2 minutes, so you don't really need to complete all of the objectives, alright, but you need to complete at least one so that it gets completed forever. For example, one of the objectives, it is for you to collect the words skate from Skate. I mean, And if you collect that objective, it never shows you off to you again in the map. So you no longer see the letters on the map because you already completed the objective. So to unlock the next levels, yes, you heard it right, it is unlocked, because when you start the game you just have the warehouse from Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 and also the warehouse from, not the warehouse, I guess the hangar from Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2. And to unlock the rest of the maps you need to at least complete one or two, I think it is 3 or 4 objectives to unlock the next map. So every time you start the game even gives you some hints how to complete those objectives. So pretty good stuff. I really like the challenges because it gives you a reason to play the game. But if you are asking yourself if you can free ride throughout the maps or the levels, yes you can. There is a mode which you can select in game which allows you to just free travel through the maps without any time limits. But obviously you can't do any objectives in there, so the objectives get completely disabled. If you want to complete the objectives, you need to go through the challenge of the 2 minutes. The game even supports online, and I think one of the biggest features of the game, it is really a map editor in game, which means that you can create your own parks and have an unlimited fun. I think that is insane. A lot of games have been adding this kind of stuff, and I think for people that really love Tony Hawk's and want to create custom parks, I think it is a huge deal in my opinion. Especially because we didn't add a good Tony Hawk's Pro Skater game in years, because the latest installments were really a crap, honestly. So what more can I tell? So the soundtrack, it is really a love letter to all the Tony Hawk's Pro Skater fans. It includes titles from the genre of the old times, alright, so it is really good, but also includes some new tracks which actually gets in here in this theme really well. So I really enjoy the soundtrack, and I should advise you to go to Google and check it out, the soundtrack of this game. I really think it is a huge love letter to the old Tony Hawk's Pro Skater, because you clearly see that these guys know what the hell they are doing with this title. So this is a remake, alright, not a remaster, despite the maps are the same and were recreated using more or less the same layers. It is still none of the less, alright, a remake, because it was rebuilt from the ground up, and there are a couple of changes which makes this game different from the first installment, and includes the 2 games. So I think it is awesome. Unfortunately for many people, this game won't be you won't be able to buy this game through Steam at first, because this is a Epic Store exclusive, and unfortunately it isn't really that cheap either. So this game costs you $44.99. There is also a deluxe edition which costs you $54.99, which includes the Reaper Skater, unique retro outfits, yes, because you have customizations in here, but it's just skins, you know, you don't really unlock any new map or anything like it, you just get outfits and different skates, so I don't think it is a huge deal. The game costs $44.99, it is close to a full price game, but still, this is 2 games inside of one, and includes online, and includes create your own park, includes an awesome soundtrack. I think it is very good. It is expensive, yes, but it is incredibly well optimized, which is very good. The title works pretty well with no issues whatsoever. I really think it is amazing. Vicarious Visions and Binox really have done a great job with this title. So finally, a good Tony Hawk's Pro Skater game. Alright guys, so I think that's all that I want to talk about Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1+2. I'm still a noob on this, but in case you want to check the rest of the gameplay, feel free to do it, because I'm going to shut up. Thank you a lot for watching, and I do hope to see you soon. Goodbye.